It's like, maybe I am gay, and that's what the manga was trying to tell me. Hey guys, it's Daniel back with another video where I watch anime in Japanese with Japanese subtitles and try to see how much I can understand. This week's episode is going to be Mushoku Tensei Season 2 Episode 6, which is死にたくない, or I Don't Wanna Die. So last episode we saw Rudy and Lise go to Ranoa University of Magic. They meet Genus, they have the entrance exam. Rudy kind of beats up on Fitz. It's kind of unfair though, because how the hell does he know disturb magic, right? And then he meets the Tokubetsei. There's the Ariel speech in the hall. He meets Fitz again in the library, kind of clears up some what he thought was maybe bad blood. Then there's the panties incident, and then Fitz saves him, and then Rudy starts falling for Fitz. In the books, he wonders if he's gay or not, but I don't know if they're gonna do that in the show. I don't know if it matters either way. So yeah, pretty good episode. Last time when I was watching, at the end of the reaction, I don't know if it was I was tired or I was getting a little bit tipsy, but I was, you know, expressing the fact that I was getting very emotional with the show. I was getting emotionally connected on a level greater than that when I was just listening to the audiobooks. So yeah, very good episode. I'm really liking this school arc so far, even though it's only been one episode, and looking forward to see what's coming. Speaking of which, this episode is called死にたくない, which is I Don't Wanna Die. Now, I do know what they're referring to with the I Don't Wanna Die part. It's not going to be some main character having suicidal thoughts. And if you're watching this video, you've probably already seen it anyway, so it's probably not going to be spoilers. But yeah, it's kind of a sad thing, but not super crazy. That whole incident's probably going to be, I don't know, like 1/3 of the episode, 1/2 of the episode at most. So I'm curious to see what else they're going to develop, what other stories they're going to develop in this episode. And I'm just curious to see how everything is going to play out. One thing I am going to be looking for is when Body Gotti, in my background, he's like the purple guy with 6 arms. When that guy eventually shows up, I don't think it's going to be this episode, but whenever he does show up, I'm going to be looking for a girl named Nina in the background. She has dark blue hair. And the reason I'm going to be looking out for that is because if you remember in the past, when they had the Saros execution, they showed Arieru, Luke, and Sylphie in the background looking from above. And at the time, I wasn't a book reader, so I didn't know that that was them. So in this case, I'm going to be looking out, I'm going to be trying to spot those little Easter eggs, and hopefully when Body Gotti comes, they'll show Nina in the background. And then later on, they're going to show why Nina was there. So that's one of the Easter eggs I'm going to be looking for. I don't think it's going to be this episode, but I'm going to be looking for it in the episodes to come. All right, that's enough discussion. Let's get into the episode. The workouts again. How early is it? Jeez. Who's this? Oh, random person. Okay, I was like, what?
ザノバが人形作りを教えてくれとうるさいので、リハビリも兼ねてのことだ。ちなみにこの食堂、結構俺の舌に合う料理が多い。現代の日本料理にはあと一歩届かないが、しかし似た。
Oh, it's because Nanahoshi has been making the menu.
個人的には満足だ。
I think.
エイナリーゼのあれの方は、昼は大学、夜の街の方で。
Stop committing sexual assault. Jesus.
昼も夜も活動するとはタフなやつだ。午後には中魔術と進撃魔術、結界魔術の基礎についての授業を受ける。
Yeah. This is the first time that a lot of anime watchers are learning about these different types of magic.
当時の俺は分かった気になって多少聞き流していた部分がある。フィッツ先輩が教えてくれた転移の迷宮探索記が一番詳しく載っているかもしれない。
I can't believe the book's that big. It's literally just one guy writing about how he explored this one labyrinth. What is that? Oh, it's just like a Japanese warrior. Oh, don't break it. That looks so cool. I like her voice in this. And the audiobooks, her voice is like way higher. Seriously, how can he possibly think that she's a girl? She's a guy. Oh, that's Ario's fault.
ルーデウス君、ものは相談なんだけど。
いえいえ、嫌じゃありません。よろしくお願いします。
うん、よろしく。じゃあ早速だけど、 この文献で転移の出現先の傾向とかが分かれば何か役に立つかもと思ってさ。
男相手に。
Here it comes.
まさかな。
Here it comes.
気の迷いだろ。
Am I gay? What? Like, even if you thought she was a guy, he looks like a girl. So, like, I don't know.
先輩はどうしてサングラスをつけているんですか？
サングラス？ああ、これのこと？ちょっと理由があって言えないんだ。
I forgot if it's a magic item or madogu.
先輩って寮の何階に住んでるんですか？
一応その女子寮の方に寝泊まりしてるんだ。アリエル様の護衛だし。
一応寮では許可を取れば従者や奴隷と生活することが可能だ。男子生徒という例外が許されているのはアリエル王女とフィッツ先輩個人が信頼されているのだろう。
Yeah, I love how they go over like this how they handle slaves in this situation just before they go over the next part of the story.
無口な方って聞いてましたけど。
僕結構人見知りするんだよ。
Yeah, also she doesn't want to get out that she's a guy, so she doesn't speak.
フィッツ先輩は小さな頃から無影小魔術を使っているんですか？
Oh, my friend
今
taught
日は
me.
やけに質問してくるね。すごい人でね。今でも尊敬してるんだ。
そうなんですか。
Rudy's so
それは僕も会って
thick-headed.
みたいものですね。
Rudy, you dumbass.
それは無理じゃないかな。
なんでですか？
Can you not meet yourself? You can meet yourself, right? Look in the mirror. I don't know.
なぜこの笑顔を見ると胸が高鳴るのだろうか。
Am I gay?
俺は決してそういう趣味ではないはずなのだが
Maybe I am gay.
彼が俺に協力的なのもやっぱり謎だった。ただ人神の
I
条
wonder
例
why
に
she's
従っ
helping
て
you.
動き、出会った彼と接することでいつか病の治療に関する手がかりがつかめるはずだ。
Maybe I am gay, and that's what the manga was trying to tell me.
世に人形の作り方を教えてください。伝わってきます。
Dude, why is he naked? Oh my god.
彼は人形を愛している。偏愛している。だが、理解
Was this in the books? I think it was actually. I just decided to forget it.
フィギュアを使用したことがあるのだから。
約束したではないですか。なぜ未だに授業を始めてくださらないのですか。
俺はそんなザノバに対し、もう少し待てと言い続けていた。
I mean, if you think about it, if you can't do incantationless magic, it's basically impossible, right? Like every single time you do an incantation, just do a little tiny part of it.
我が修行は厳しいぞ。
俺たちの人形制作は始まったばかりだ。
And he sucks. Basically, he passes out all the time. Anytime he tries to use any sort of magic, he passes out. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Just using a tiny bit of magic, even trying to do like a tiny bit of the figure, he just passes out from lack of mana. Like the smaller you make it, the more mana you have to use, actually. So Rudy has like ridiculous amounts of mana.
世がもっと優秀であれば。それをどうするのですか。
削り出します。
Yeah, like a normal
それ
person.
は最も現象的で最も確実な、しかし難しい方法だ。それなら魔力のないものでも可能なはずだ。
なるほど。
Except he has no control over strength.
なら世にもできそうですな。
Yeah, you should try it first, though.
あ
Rip.
希望はいとも簡単に打ち砕かれた。ザノバは手先が器用ではなかったのだ。彼の怪力が邪魔をし、繊細な作業を行うのは。
Honestly, the title of this episode could be referring to Zanaba at this moment. Like, this is his life. His life is making dolls. So, the fact that he can't make it, like, he's just, no matter what he tries, he can't make it. It's like, he might as well commit suicide, you know?
魔術で？
その人はどうしていたんですか？
奴隷にやらせていたんだ。
その手がありましたか。一度ザノバに聞いてみてから。
I'm actually curious what the slave market looks like.
いい子が見つかるといいね。
Because in the books, it's like a very crappy situation.
どうしましたか？
そういえば 僕も暇なんだよね。次のお休み。
そうなんです
Can I go with you to the slave market?
シーロン王国第三王子ザノバシーロンあ
He's like putting on airs, like,
ザ
sit
ノ
down,
は
sit
今
down.
回の一件を提案してくださったのはフィッツ先輩だ。
Yeah, it looks like they're taking their time with this episode, not rushing it, which is fine with me, I guess. Actually curious what, like, this part of town looked like. Because they go out in town a lot in the coming arcs.
僕も買うのは初めてですので、まずは
It's so
見て
awkward.
回りま
It's
しょ
so
う。
awkward, like, they're buying slaves, like, ugh. Yep, that was in the books too.
本当にみんな裸になるんだ。大きいな。あんな風になってるんだ。
実に DD らしい反応だ。
Dude, shut up.
俺にもああいう頃があった。
Stop talking like you're better than someone just because you had sex one
別の
time.
理由でさ。
っていうか、ルーデウス君経験あるんだ。
Dude, one time.
師匠戦士には用はないでしょう。
一般的には生まれつき魔力総量は決まっていると聞いていますが。
確かに教本にはそう書いて
The
ある
funny thing is, all this stuff Rudy told Sylvie in the first place. So it's like he's basically telling it to himself.
やはりそう聞くと2、3歳の頃から魔術を使ってきた俺の魔力総量
Yeah, he's like, Yahari. It's like, no, you're basically, she's basically repeating what you told
条
her.
件も決まったことですし、商人の方に聞いてみましょう。
ドワーフ6歳のジョージだ。親の借金で一家揃って奴隷落ちだと
They actually tell the story of her parents later, and it's really sad.
栄養失調か。
とりあえず会ってみましょうか。
Yeah, let's see how they show this scene. Oof. Okay. Her skin should not be looking that good in that cage.
おい、出ろ。
Don't be an ass, come on. She's like on the verge of dying. And she heals, or yeah, she heals her, and then, but Rudy doesn't notice this. I mean, she's gonna die, like, if he doesn't buy her.
水砲撃 BPS。
懐かしい目だ。俺もこんな目をしていた。現状を絶望し、何もかもを投げ出したいと思っていた。
ようこ、押してばい。ボシャーや、離職はボアエス、なよなじゅ。ニュピュー、いいよ、デートペケス。
There's like his secret with her. No one knows what he's saying, obviously.
俺に彼女の人生を救ってやることはできない。そ
Yeah,
り
you
ゃ
have to do it yourself.
ここで彼女を購入し仕事を与えてやることはできるけど、それが救いではないことを俺はよく知っているつもりだ。やりたくないものを無理やりやらされても決して救いではない。むしろそれなら終わらせてやった方がいい。
あじゃデイボイ。ボアシャジデイボイ。
いいだろう、そんなもんだ。それでいい。生きたいじゃなくていい。死にたくないで。とりあえずいい。
Thing is, if you're starving and you eat too much, isn't there a risk of dying in that situation as well?
エハス、ヨヒディ。
He doesn't have a name. They don't give dwarves names until they're older.
ジアイエディ。
僕らでつけてあげるしかないね。女の子だし、可愛い名前にしてあげよう。
Xenoban names her after his dead brother.
ではジュリアスと。
それ、男の名前ですよね。
はい。かつて世が力加減を誤って殺してしまったかわいそうな弟の名前です。
せめて女
Fitz is
の
like,
子だし、
what?
ジュリエッ
What
ト
is this?
にしときましょうよ。
I think Fitz doesn't know that, right? Or hasn't heard that until now.
いい名前だね。
リス、両者、いや、ジュリエット。
ジュリ
こうして俺とザノバの人形計画はここから少しずつ前進していくこととなる。
Yeah, really slow-paced episode, but it was nice. Nice relaxing episode. Juzokure. I can't read that. So the next episode, after having looked it up, is called Juzokure jo Rachikankin Jiken. Basically, the beast kidnapping, and it's as cringe as it sounds. Yeah, I don't know if I'm looking forward to the next episode. It's not so great. I don't know. I'm going to be cringing throughout the entire next episode. I know it. This episode was pretty slow-paced. I suppose I prefer this kind of slow-paced episode to, again, like the rest episode in episode 2. So I'm perfectly fine with it, and I guess you can't really rush something like getting close to someone, like Rudy's getting close to Sylphie/Fitz. Technically, only one thing happened in this episode, but you kind of have to build it up, right? You can't just rush into things like this. You can't just be like, oh, we're buying a slave. It's like, why? I'm fine with things going slow, but that said, that's part of the reason why I didn't really have much commentary during the episode, because there wasn't really much to talk about. It's just like Fitz and Rudy are getting closer, and Zanoba needs Rudy to help him, and they go help him. So that's basically it. I could give you some more information, but really there's nothing to come from me as far as what happens in the books or whatnot. It's like what you see is what actually happened. Because this episode is probably going to be a bit short, I'm not sure how I'm going to cut it later, but that's probably going to be the case. Let's go a little bit long on the Japanese explanations for today. This week's word of the week is going to be more like a Japanese lesson, and the reason why I want to do this is because sometimes if you don't know Japanese or you don't know much Japanese, you'll watch an anime and the translation's kind of weird. Like, I don't know why they would translate that way, or like this weird jumble of hyphens that don't make any sense. And the biggest reason for that is because of how kanji operate. Now, most people know that kanji are originally characters from China, and they know that they have their own separate meaning, but people don't really think of the implications of that. Because they have different meanings, you can kind of mix and match them to make new words, which is basically what's been happening over the past however many hundred years of Japanese history. It also means that when you're writing a manga or a novel or something, that you can just make a new word, and generally people will know what you're talking about. The best example I can come up with is with Latin roots in English. For example, people know what pre and post mean. So if someone says pre-game warm-up or post-game interview, everyone's gonna know what you mean. You don't have to go through the trouble of saying before the game warm-up or after the game interview. There's no need for that because people know what pre and people know what post means. But in Japanese, virtually every single word can be combined with other words to make a new word, unlike the scarce few Latin roots that actually exist in English. So basically you can think of a Japanese compound word like a hyphenated word in English. I think I've heard that German is like that too, where it's just these big long words glommed together. But in Japanese, instead of being long and cumbersome, it makes things a lot more concise and compact. Like, for example, in this episode, they use the word kinjutsu. Now, kinjutsu is not really a word. Yeah, it's been used in other anime and games before. But if you look in the Japanese English dictionary, nothing comes out. There's no results for kinjutsu. Now, kinjutsu, kin just means forbidden or taboo, and jutsu just means technique, so just forbidden technique. But if you were actually to talk like a normal person, and you weren't reading an anime or manga, right? If you're just saying, you know, forbidden jutsu, you would say kinchi sareteru jutsu or kinchi sareteru majutsu. That would be the normal way to say it. But instead of doing that, they actually just combined those two characters and then made a new word, basically forbidden technique, forbidden jutsu. And you don't have to go through the trouble of writing the whole sentence explaining it. Because I guarantee you, any Japanese person who knows what those kanji mean, and they learn those kanji, I don't know, grade 3 and above, if you know those kanji, you know exactly what that word means, even though it's a made-up word. To hammer the point home of kanji, I'm going to use the Japanese kanji ma, which means demon. So if you stick aku in front of ma, it becomes akuma, which means evil demon or devil. It's not like Christianity where there's only one devil. For example, in Chainsaw Man, all the devils are called akuma. So if you want to listen for that, go ahead. The character in Street Fighter is also named Akuma, obviously. But another way ma is used is for magic. So anything that has to deal with magic, usually ma is involved. For example, there's 3 words in Japanese, which when translated to English are usually translated just as magic, but they mean 3 different things. So the first one is maho, which is basically one-to-one. It just means magic in English. Now you might be thinking, how do we get magic from demon? So looking at maho, ho means like way of, so basically way of the demon or like sorcery, I guess. Even though the origin of the word magic in Japanese, maho, like this, you know, way of the demon kind of negative connotation. The word maho in Japanese doesn't have a negative or positive connotation. It's the same exact thing as magic in English. So maho, one-to-one basically just means magic. Moving forward though, majutsu is like magic technique. But, for example, when they say in Mushoku Tensei, Chiyu Majutsu, it's pretty much always translated as healing magic, or maybe sometimes healing technique, but it's never really translated as like healing magic technique because it's a little bit long and cumbersome, right? Whenever you see something like healing magic or like barrier magic or something like that, they're using the word majutsu, not maho. As an aside, majutsushi, mage, is basically a user of magic techniques, right? Majutsushi. Finally, we have maryoku, which is magic capacity, and a lot of times it's translated as mana or MP, but that seems very kind of video gamey and kind of stats based, which kind of brings you away from the feeling of being in a real life situation, right? So the best way I can put that is magic capacity, and I wish they would translate that way, but you can see a lot of the times where it's just translated as magic, like I have a lot of magic in me. So those are the three that you should look out for, like the difference between maho, majutsu, and maryoku. Going back to ma being demon rather than magic, we have mamono, which is basically demon thing or monster in this world. We have mazoku, which is demon or demon kind or demon race. Zoku just means like tribe or race or what have you. I plan on going over that a little bit more in the next episode because it obviously has to deal with the kidnapping of the beasts. Next we have Mao, which means demon king, and which is used in a lot of anime. I think the first one I can remember personally is in Dragon Ball, I believe. Not even Dragon Ball Z, but Dragon Ball. Mao means something completely different in this universe, by the way. They basically use the same ranks as in magic and swordsmanship, where, you know, king is below emperor is below god. Finally, we have Majin, which is demon god, and more specifically, we have Majin Naparasu, who Rudy is often compared to when talking about the ridiculous Maryoku. This is not to be confused with Majin in Chainsaw Man, which uses a completely different kanji and basically means demon person, but is translated as fiend. Okay, now let's move on to the words that I had to look up. Whenever I make these lists, there's always some words that I'm a bit iffy on that I decide to either put on or leave off. This time was no different. I left off some words that, you know, I was like, well, I'm iffy on, but I think I know it pretty well. Whereas there's some words that I was iffy on and I was like, well, I should probably put it on. One of those words is itomo kantan. I didn't really understand it in the moment. Another one is eiyo shicho. Now, like I wrote in the parentheses here, just by looking at these kanji, I know what it means, right? Eiyo means nutrition. Shicho is not a common word, but just by looking at it, you can kind of tell it just means like bad condition, right? So yeah, malnutrition. However, if I were listening to the audiobook, for instance, and they suddenly said eiyo shicho, there's no way I would have known without having access to the kanji here in the subtitles. Another word is ogi. I've heard this a lot in anime, so I thought I already knew this word, but the way Rudy used it in that one sentence, I was like, do I know what this word means? Whenever I hear ogi, I think of Rurouni Kenshin, Hite Michirugi Ryu no ogi. So yeah, I always thought it just meant ultimate technique, but apparently it's a little bit more broad than that. Same thing for denju. Denju is another one of those words that if you look at the kanji, it's pretty obvious. Den means to pass on. Ju basically means to retrieve an instruction. So yeah, okay. And also given the context, it's pretty obvious as well. Nagedasu was another one where given the context, it was super easy to understand. Basically, Rudy in his inner thoughts when he's talking with Judy, he says, I was in despair and I wanted to nagedasu anything and everything. And it's like, okay, it's pretty obvious what he's saying by that. But looking at that, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that nagedasu meant that. So I went and looked it up. The first definition of nagedasu is pretty obvious. Nage means throw. Dasu means to put out, to just basically throw out. But the second definition apparently is to give up, resign, or abandon. Monono Sodan is another one that's pretty easy to understand from the context, the way Sylphie uses it, but I decided to look it up just in case because I'd never seen it before. And finally, Hakadoru. I don't know if you guys are studying a language or, I don't know, studying vocabulary for the SATs or something, but Hakadoru is one of those words where I swear I've looked this up 100 times before and I keep forgetting what it means. So I just kind of put it on here because maybe there's other people like that who have the same few words that just trip them up every single time. But yeah, Hakadoru, to make progress. Okay, now we're going to talk about the thing that I spent 3 hours Googling and researching, and it's this combination of words. So, let's start from the beginning. Abarembo Shogun is apparently a period drama on TV Asahi from 1978 to 2008, so really, really long-running TV series. Apparently, the official English translation is The Unfettered Shogun, but Abarembo is much more like rambunctious or rowdy, so unfettered is a very interesting translation of that. And apparently the Unfettered Shogun is about Tokugawa Yoshimune, And in the show, he deals with this Megumi squad. And I'm not sure that's historically accurate that he dealt with this particular squad, but I did go ahead and look up Megumi to see what that was all about. So there's these local fire brigades, and there's 48 of them. And me is just a character in Japanese, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. In Japanese is A, I, U, E, O, Kakeko. So a lot of times if you look at Megumi no Kenka in English, they'll write it like this. But the issue is that Megumi is an actual girl's name, so if you read it that way, you'll think it's like the fight of a little girl or something like that, or fight of Miss Megumi or something like that. That's why I write it like this, Megumi, Squad Me. And apparently the only reason why they're famous is because there was a fight between sumo wrestlers and Megumi. Apparently this guy wanted to get his buddy in for free at this one place, and he got into a fight with a sumo wrestler. And then they both decided to go to he kind of cooled off and they left, but they both decided to go to the same play, and they met in the middle of the road, and the guy got mad again, and the sumo wrestler got all his buddies to go fight, and the other dude decided to ring the bell that got all the fire brigade to come fight as well. And apparently it caused a lot of confusion and chaos because you're only supposed to ring the bell when there's an actual fire, so people didn't know what was going on. And because there are so many different entities involved, it ended up going all the way to the top, and that's why it became famous, even though no one died in it. It was just kind of like a thing that happened. So yeah, because it was famous at the time, apparently it became the subject of kabuki plays afterwards. So Fight of Megumi becomes famous, and that's probably why they concluded in this TV show. One funny / bizarre thing about the aftermath of that fight is that for some reason they exiled the bell. And I saw two sources on this. They exiled the bell for some reason. It's like, what did the bell do? The bell got rung by people. Like, it makes no sense that they would exile the bell. Anyway, I thought that was really bizarre. So yeah, after all that research, I'm still not totally sure what this line means. しかし、夜の暴れん坊将軍は町火消しの恵みの居候のままで回復の兆しはない. So I put the words above to kind of give you a literal translation of what this means. Basically, like, however, the Knights Unfettered Shogun is the Fire Brigade's mess squads, and he's still a freeloader and no sense of recovery. I also put into Google Translate to see what they what they had. However, the Nighttime Rampant General is just Unfettered Shogun, the titular main character of the show. Remains a freeload of the town firefighters and shows no sign of recovery. And I think this is the official English translation that they have. I had to go to an illegal site to look it up because I live in Japan and I cannot access things like Crunchyroll. And the translation I found was, but my unfettered shogun of the night is still crashing with the firefighters, no signs of recovery. I think this is the closest it's gonna get, but I still think it requires some explanation. So what I think he's saying is, in the show, I only looked up a little bit of the show. I didn't want to waste any more time looking up what actually happened. But apparently, the main character is, like I mentioned before, Tokugawa Yoshimune. But he's disguised as a normal person. Like, I think it was a random person in the mess squad. And so, I believe what he's trying to say, I believe what Rudy is saying, is that he's still, like, in disguise. He's still in disguise and, you know, freeloading off of the firefighters. And I don't know what happens at the end of the show, or if, like, at some point the main character reveals that he's the actual shogun. But I'm guessing that's what Rudy is waiting for. He's waiting for the shogun to finally show himself and come out. So that's my best interpretation of this line. Alright, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I've noticed that recently I'm actually getting some views on these videos now, so thank you so much for that. One thing that would help a lot is if you like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.